This plant can think, reason.
The question of the plant as a creature with faculties that are not like our own, but are perhaps analogous to ours, is returning.
So what is the history of our affective relationship to plants? What is there in this feeling that we feel? Is it something that's culturally constructed? Does it have a history?
As Antonia and I began talking more and reading more about the figure of the plant in both philosophy and literature, we discovered that there's a moment around the 17th century when there's a real return to a kind of fascination with the plant as a life form of its own.
Imaginative and speculative accounts like Cyrano de Bergerac's appear in fiction, in literature. This kind of fiction is very much at a crossroads between what we would call fringe or experimental science of the time and literature, poetry.
I started thinking about the question of the plant and its animation when Antonia and I had a conversation about Aristotle, and we were talking about the Aristotelian model of the vegetal soul. Our conversation moved to the fact that the Aristotelian vegetal soul model seems to return in 20th century film.
French writer Colette in the early 20th century describes the effect of science films, in particular plant science films, on the audience as something not only mesmerizing and fantastic, as a new kind of fairy tale, but as something that can also be frightening or terrifying.
Films like The Thing, which in its first version involves a vampiric carrot. We're also interested in the two versions of The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which have been read mainly as explorations of paranoia around the possibility of a nuclear apocalypse, but that we're looking at as confrontations with the plant. We're arguing that there's been a real reemergence of the plant once again, not only in popular film, but also in visual art. So our hope is that we are going to excavate a tradition, an aesthetic tradition that has anticipated in a lot of ways some of the most compelling questions about plant life that are being asked today.